Welcome in to Red Cedar Radar. My name is Brad, and I am here right now with my co-host, Sydney Padgett. Sydney, how has your week been?
My week's been good. It's exam week, but I'm trudging through. We'll be free soon. How are you?
Barely getting by. So my semester just ended. So yeah, it was a tough time, but you know, it's a beautiful day in downtown Lansing. So that is what's up. Yeah, so today we got a lot on board. Obviously, as you know, Sydney, great time. It's gonna kick butt, as they say. We got recruiting updates with football. We got hockey. We got basketball, and I think that kind of it's an interesting time, right? Because we're in the middle of both the hockey and the football season. Football recruiting is in full swing. So, yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is kind of an odd episode because I think you meant in the middle of hockey and basketball season.
Oh, yep. Sorry. My bad.
It's okay. And it's kind of a weird time right now because it is exam week at MSU, so things are a little bit, dying down as the semester winds down. So we have some things to talk about, but maybe not as much news as we usually will have because it's kind of a weird time. Yeah,
it is. And we're still sort of, I guess, with trying to get people on the show. There has been, there's some stuff that we have in the works, but nothing is completely concrete or cement yet. So that is fun. That's coming, of course. So yeah, it was. It looks like it's going to be a good time.
No guests today, just us.
Just us. You gotta deal with us. So
yeah, the whole time.
The whole time.
Before we get into our own football recruiting, we kind of wanted to touch on something that's just football news in general. Today, it was released that Mississippi State's head coach Mike Leach passed away. Did you know much about him, Brad?
Not an awful lot, but I do know that a ton of people really love him, right?
Yeah.
And, I guess he was labeled as someone who was a good father, someone who, sort of family man type person. Yeah, it's definitely, I think, heartbreaking when anyone dies, just in general.
Of course.
But yeah, it was. I think that he was very, very, very loved in the community, and he was a good coach. So obviously our condolences are with the family and the program and the university.
I didn't know anything. I didn't know this about him before, but he never played college football. He went and got his law degree or a master's degree in law, and then decided that he wanted to kind of take a chance on coaching football, which is super exciting. An unconventional path is I always like those stories. So yeah,
you don't hear about that very
definitely.
Often. Yeah, so without further ado, let's just get into it regarding Michigan State, another MSU sort of transition. You always brag about my transitions, so I'm trying to, thank you. I'm not trying to brag, but we have football news full swing with rivals and everyone. We're as a site, we're going to announce our football recruiting writer very soon. We've brought people on to cover basketball as well. So let's just start with, where should we start, Sydney? Where do you think we should start?
I feel like we should start with the exciting news of a couple commits and then get into maybe the less exciting decommits and like transfer portal stuff. What do you think?
That sounds like a good idea.
Okay. So
perfect.
I'll just list them off and a couple facts, and then we can discuss. Does that work for you?
That works for me,
so 2 commits have come in through the transfer portal. Adamola Falay is a tight end that transferred from Norfolk State. He just in last week committed to MSU. Of note, he's a cousin of our big-time 5-star target, Samson Okanola.
Perfect.
Which is exciting because, if your cousin is coming here, if you get along really well with your cousin, then maybe you want to come here too.
Exactly.
Okanola just announced MSU as one of his 4 finalists, as his recruiting is ongoing. So that's exciting that we have some of his family coming here already, which might be a positive note in MSU's book as far as that big time recruit. Anything that you know about our transfer from Norfolk State?
No. All I know is that he's a tight end. That's it.
Okay.
That is it. Isn't Norfolk State? Aren't they FCS? Yes. No.
I think you might be right. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I only know that from video games. I'm not lying.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'm not.
It.
I don't know much about Norfolk State. Sorry to any Norfolk State fans out there.
Yeah.
Maybe
sorry.
I should. Let's go on to the next one. Jalen Franklin is a tight end transferred from Wisconsin. He spent 5 years at Wisconsin. And in a recent interview, not sure with who, but he called MSU one of his dream schools and is looking forward to being closer to home since he's from Brownstown, Michigan. So, seems like 2 very positive pickups. When we haven't had too much positive recruiting news, so it's always nice to start out on a positive note with this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And we'll get into sort of where I think that Michigan State is on recruiting, and I'm not going to be pegged to be like an expert at all.
Yeah, of course.
But a lot of the stuff, it seems that I'm seeing with, like right now, our gains are not as flashy as the losses, right? But I think, one thing that at least keeps everything sort of leveled, is that at least Mel Tucker has a pretty good recruiting background. I think in 2018 it was. I can't remember where Tucker was, but he was listed as one of the top recruiting coaches in the country. So, that was one of the things that brought him to Colorado. And then obviously he went to Michigan State, but that was one of his biggest things. He was able to attract high level talent, and including Kenneth Walker. I mean, Kenneth Walker wasn't he wasn't the biggest recruiter, most flashiest recruit, but at the same time he was able to convince him, come on down here and we'll use you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. Do you want to talk about a worthy? I mean, I don't know what's wrong. I can't talk. Do you want to talk about an important decommit that was of recent news?
Yeah, I would love to. We talking about Jonathan Slack Jr.?
Yes.
Yeah, that's he decommitted. I know that of the people or of the players who were committed, his name came up sort of in that sort of middle ground, because I think that on Rivals he was a 3-star guard, right? And it's not like seeing players like him decommit is going to hurt a little bit more, just because he's a lineman, right? You don't want to lose those guys, especially when you don't have much depth there to begin with. And then you have whereas decommits, and we'll get to them in a second, but for example, Gurmy Bernard, freshman wide receiver, he just went into the transfer portal, right, from MSU. So losing him, I feel like, is definitely going to hurt less than Slack decommitting, because again, Michigan State's got a load of wide receivers. Their wide receivers are not going to be as hurting as much as maybe a lineman would or a defensive player. So
it always just makes me wonder, and I like you've said before, I'm not an expert on recruiting. It always just makes me wonder why that's happening after already committing. There's probably tons of different things that go into those decisions. because it is a huge decision to decide where you're going to go. But it always just makes me wonder, why is that happening? Is it something on the player side, or is it something in the program side that he didn't end up liking? That always just leaves me with some questions.
Yeah, I know that there are a couple different commits who decommitted, who are I think it was like a mutual decision is what it's being pegged off as, right? Like at Rivals, we will say, for instance, that this recruit is no longer in this recruiting class. It's not that they necessarily decommitted. It's just that they are no longer a part of the class. It could have been a mutual decision on MSU's part too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think either way, I'll never know the answer because it doesn't really matter, but it always just makes me think like, what's going on? Moving on from decommits, we have 9 different MSU players that have entered the transfer portal. I can just read through the list. There's some names that we heard a little bit during this past season. So first we have junior wide receiver Terry Lockett. Freshman wide receiver, is it Gurmy or is it Jeremy?
I thought it was Gurmy Bernard. That was always what I've always said.
Okay, yeah. Freshman kicker Jack Stone, which there was some debate about him, whether or not he is truly entering the transfer portal to play football somewhere else, or if he is just going to another school and leaving football behind. Right. Yeah, there was some speculation on that. Next we have junior defensive end Michael Fletcher. Freshman defensive end Chase Carter. Junior defensive tackle or defensive end Jalen Hunt. Freshman linebacker Carson Castile. And then sophomore safety Kobe Myers. Quite the list.
Yeah. And then a ton of people going to the NFL draft, of course. Because,
10 players.
as they do. I don't know that how many MSU guys will get drafted, or how many can get drafted, I should say.
Hard to say.
But yeah, I know. I mean, like there are guys like Reed who, pretty obvious that they'll probably go like in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't know that Reed, like with Jaden Reed, I don't know that he did enough to like justify going higher. This year was different for him. I'm not an NFL scout, but I feel like he could go probably 3rd round-ish,
I am not much familiar with that process, but like based off his performance this year compared to last year, I feel like he will go lower this year than he would have last year.
Right.
I don't know that for sure, but that's just my take on it. So to kind of wrap up recruiting, should MSU fans be concerned about losing different prospects, whether it be decommit or not in the recruiting class anymore, or all of these guys going to the transfer portal? Should they be concerned?
It's so early to tell, Like every opinion that I've seen so far has been either the sky is falling, right? Or everything will be fine as it's perfectly headed, and the odds are that the reality is that it's somewhere in the middle. I mean, you can't. It's hard to say, right? Like, I mean, Wisconsin, I guess this isn't really a great comparison because Wisconsin just fired its head coach, but Wisconsin just had. They have 8 recruits, I think, last I checked. Michigan State has 10, last I checked. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that it's not as fearful as people make it out to be. I definitely think that when you have a season like this, you're going to have some of those. You're going to have those lower points more than the higher points. And right now, we're just seeing the worst of that. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, I agree. I've said this before, but like Twitter sometimes drives me crazy because if I don't know everything about the topic and I go to Twitter to learn more, it's like you said, the sky is falling. It's all over. Like the program's done.
And everyone thinks they're an expert too. It's just like,
of course,
God,
Yeah.
I can't even.
Yeah.
But okay, Sydney, are you ready to start with hockey?
I am ready.
Do it.
Let's
do
it.
Something that I know about.
Yeah, right.
I know about football, but like it's just.
Yeah.
I wish we had someone on today. Like I said, we had trouble with guests. Not a big deal, but we will trudge on. Let's go on. Hockey's in full swing. Actually, it's in the middle of a hiatus right now because of the exams and the holiday break. But Michigan State is now up to number 11. Trivia. Do you know the last time that Michigan State was ranked number 11 or higher?
I think I saw this on Twitter. And I'm
yeah,
gonna throw
I tweeted it.
Okay. That's probably why. I'm going to throw out a guess, but I don't know if this is right. Is it like 2010?
Yeah, it was October 25th, 2010.
Okay.
Which is wild to me. It's one question I did get asked on our message boards, actually, where you can go sign up and get a 30-day free trial if you use the promo code Spartans30. Mm-hmm. Something they asked me was, why has it been so long that Michigan State has not had a player who was a first-round draft pick? And I think that's sort of ties into the whole lack of success thing, because they sort of feed themselves, right? Like on the one hand, you have, I think, just Michigan has. Where Michigan succeeded in those years, Michigan State sort of took a dip. It was the same exact thing, actually, the same dynamic that happened when Michigan State had that rise in football, and Michigan took that dip. Yep. So right about 2008, 2010. So it's similar to that, and Michigan State is now experiencing a head coach that has sort of difference-making skills, and it's exciting. I mean, you should have seen Munn on Friday.
Yeah, it was sold out, right?
Well, not only that, but the week before against Minnesota was also sold out, right?
Okay.
And I mean, fans were doing the wave. I don't think I've ever seen the wave done in Munn before. Yeah. I didn't know this too, but in the late 90s to early 2000s, or 2000s, Michigan State's Munn Ice Arena had a sellout streak of 300 plus consecutive games. Mm-hmm. Do you know that? At the time, I don't know this for sure, but and this is just quoting Wikipedia, so please do not take this with a grain of salt. Yeah. But Wikipedia said that it was the longest sellout streak in NCAA history.
I believe it. I mean, when you talk to anyone that's a big Spartan fan that's older than you and I, if you bring up hockey, they'll talk about like when Munn was the place to be. Right. I've heard that many times.
It's like you're in the Cars movie and they're talking about Route 66. They're like, back in its heyday, it was the best thing in the world.
Yeah, good comparison.
So, yeah, absolutely. But anyway, so if you want a quick update on Michigan State hockey, they're 12-7-1. Michigan State, do you know how many games they won last year? 12. Do you know how many? Yeah. And they've won as many as they've won this year. So it's crazy. I think it's just, I am surprised that they're doing so well, but I wouldn't even care if they're giving me a product to watch. You know what I mean? Like last year was just so unwatchable. After January, they did not win. Actually, technically starting with January, they didn't win a single game in 2022 last season. Like after the calendar turned over, they won. Actually, it was one game. I was being dramatic. They won one game, and it was against Penn State, who also was not good. So it was a complete mess, and I can't believe that I had to sit through that.
Well, now all the time that you put in for that is paying off this year. Because you get to sit through something way better. Yeah. Exactly.
Real quick, I know that we did talk about football recruiting, okay? Mm-hmm. But I did want to touch on hockey recruiting for a hot second. Not many people really give a shit, but here we are. So we're gonna, just bear with me. I'm mainly concerned with an article that I have coming out pretty quickly about Austin Baker and Lucas Van Vliet. They're both really good players. They're on the U.S. national development team, the U17 squad right now. Next year, they'll probably be on the U18 squad and then come to MSU the following year. So we're talking about prospects who will essentially join the program 2 years from now, which is not, again, not exciting to talk about because people want stuff now. They want it to happen, right?
Of course.
But anyway, it's very exciting because they both have been playing together since they were 10 years old, and it's a pretty exciting story to read on how they met, on where they come from, and everything like that. So it's I don't know, it's very exciting stuff. So Sydney, the holidays are coming up, and that is very exciting. How is your Christmas shopping going?
I have some stuff, but I need a couple more things. How about yours?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. I know Katie and I just got married, so we're not like doing as much in detail as we did last year. Obviously we just spent money on a wedding. We don't want to go overboard. So that's just where we're at. So that's good. We're keeping it limited. We're cutting them off. All our family. It's like no gifts for you. That's it. So anyway, Sydney and I thought that it would be a good idea to take a second to talk about our sponsor and Nudge Printing and the stuff that they have to offer on their website.
Yeah, so I picked two things that I would want for Christmas. So my first is the Retro Combat Sword Sparty t-shirt. I love Gruff Sparty, but I feel like a lot of the stuff that I always find is like the same picture of him, just in different color background or whatever. But I really like that this t-shirt is kind of a unique design, and I think he looks really good on there. So I would definitely wear that all the time. And then my other thing that I would want is the classic alumni hoodie sweatshirt, again with Gruff Sparty on it, if you're seeing a theme. I am an MSU alumni, soon to be a 2-time MSU alumni.
You
coming
back
in
to
May.
back.
Yeah, so I feel like I would wear that very proudly. They just look very comfy too, and I'm a big comfy clothes person,
So mine, and I've thought about this a couple times, but I'm going to simplify it, okay? So as you know, I'm a big hockey guy, right? And Michigan State has a pretty prominent hockey logo. It's pretty, important, all that. So I have a shirt that you saw earlier that is it's a t-shirt. It just says Michigan State. It's the hockey logo. They have a sweatshirt that's got a laced up. Officially, it's titled the Michigan State MSU Spartans hockey logo green hoodie lace up sweatshirt pullover fleece. Bunch of words.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. But anyway, it's on the site. It's $60. And it's actually a pretty good deal if you're in the market for a really nice sweatshirt and if you want to spend that money on your loved ones. Additionally, they have a couple things that with the MSU hockey logo on it, and I would recommend any of them. But my wife goes to Northern Michigan, so they have, again, a ton of other collegiate licensing. So you can go there and get that. If you went to MSU, but your spouse went to wherever, or your daughter went to wherever, you can go grab a Northern Michigan, a Grand Valley, a whatever floats your boat. Michigan's not on here for obvious reasons, but I'm just saying, I mean, they have Liberty, they have Eastern Michigan, Bemidji State, they have Army West Point. Like anywhere if you know a loved one that went to any school, look them up on nudgeprinting.com and try to see if you can snag them some merch. But I will be getting my wife a Northern Michigan sweatshirt. I don't know about you at home or if you have anyone that went to any university, but that is just me.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, you can get kind of shopping done for yourself, get yourself an MSU t-shirt, and then get her something too, and I like that. Exactly.
For those of you who have not tried nudge printing, or if you just want to try them again, go to nudgeprinting.com and use the promo code TRYUS. That is TRYUS, all one word, all caps, for $10 off of your nudge printing order. And it expires on December 31st. So get those in, or as quickly as possible to get them before Christmas.
Now moving on to basketball. Brad, are you ready to talk about some Spartan basketball?
Oh, I am. You know me. I got the basketball hoodie on.
You got the basketball hoodie.
Crew neck.
Yeah, crew neck, sorry. So, just to give a little rundown on how MSU has done up until this point, MSU currently sits 1-1 in Big Ten play and 7-4 overall throughout the whole season. To recap where they've been so far, they lost 1 point. They lost 1 point to Gonzaga on an airship, and it had an impressive win over Kentucky. Just one win at home over Villanova, and then a rocky Phil Knight Invitational with a loss to Alabama, a win over Oregon, and barely skating by with a win over Portland. Since our last pod, we talked about the loss to Notre Dame, the loss to Northwestern. Since our last pod, they have won over Penn State on the road, which is a good plus, and then had a win at home over Brown. Coming up... I'll just say what's coming up and then feel free to jump in. Coming up, they have a game against Oakland on Wednesday, December 21st. And then on December 30th, they have a game against Buffalo at home.
Yeah, pretty easy schedule. I know that and we talked about this in the last episode, right? That the messaging, and I feel like it might have helped Michigan State, but the messaging for this team was just get by Penn State and it's easy sailing until the new year, right?
Yeah.
Like literally, you got they beat Brown, they got Oakland coming up, and now then they got Buffalo. Just a much more relaxed schedule. It's not even that it's just an easy schedule. It's just much more relaxed, not as in depth as far as that goes. And we talked about that, right? With the crazy chaotic schedule they had, it was a lot to expect them to perform at a high level throughout all of that and the travel and everything. So.
Yes, yeah. I kind of just will touch on that again. So the Spartans are getting a much needed break over exams in the holiday season. Of note, Malik Hall is getting plenty of time when there's not a lot of games happening to continue to heal up. So my question for you, Brad, is I saw on Twitter, and I think even mentioned in one of our articles, will this break kill the momentum that MSU has just recently gotten back? Or do you think that this break will kind of just be like a sounding board for them to keep going on with this momentum? Just the break that they need, or will it kill them?
I think that it is definitely what they need the most.
I agree.
Right now. I think that it couldn't have come at a better time. I think that I think that this team is a good team, but I think that there are some caveats to that, in the sense of like someone's got to step up. And I think that, Malik Hall can't carry this team every night when he gets back, right? And
right.
I guess that's sort of sort of been my thing is I was expecting a lot more from certain players on this team. I'm not really. It's been kind of over. I don't want to place blame on anybody, obviously, but that's I guess where I'm at right now is it's sort of between. Yes, you have a lot of injured pieces, and yes, the schedule has been very difficult. But at the same time, you need to give these players that space to develop, right? And I think that this is crucial time for Izzo.
I agree completely. I don't think that this is going to kill their momentum. I think that this is going to continue to help them build that momentum because I don't think they could continue at the pace that they were going before. So I agree with you.
Exactly.
So let's go into a recap of Penn State really quick, and then we'll move on to a recap of Brown, and then we'll talk about, what comes from there. So Penn State, last time we recorded, I was kind of hard on A.J. Hoggard, saying that he shouldn't be our leading scorer with 12 points, which still stands. But A.J. Hoggard went to Penn State with a chip on his shoulder and left with a career-high 23 points. I think that him starting on the bench prior to the Penn State game was a good move by Izzo, and I think it kind of shook Hoggard up a little bit. And he played much better defensively, and I saw some better body language things from him that I hadn't seen in a couple games before. So I was impressed, definitely, by him at Penn State. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that it's actually funny, and I'm only using the experience that I have with Michigan State hockey. But remember in the last episode that I talked to you about Jagger Joshua and how he was actually benched because he was taking too many penalties. Nightingale specifically mentioned that, right? And I told you about this, right? Well, get this. Hoggard, since being sat, has put up been just a lot of everything that this MSU team has needed, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And then Jagger Joshua, not a single penalty in the 5 games since he was benched. So
it's so nice when that works out.
Right.
For coaches and for us too. But yeah, I was super impressed by him. There was one play that I want to note, and then we'll kind of move on. But there was 1 minute left in the first half, and Hoggard made just an absolute huge play on defense, which doesn't often happen for him. And he ended up turning it into a 3-point play. And it just seemed like he was a whole different guy from where he was, during those couple losses that we had talked about last time. So just really impressive things that I hope after that little wake-up call from Izzo that he can keep up, because I'm seeing some great stuff.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Penn State?
No, the only reason I just heard about the stats. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't go back and watch those games because I was covering elsewhere while those games were happening. So that's just why I don't have much else to say. Same thing with Brown. So, but we can go into it. And I heard that Hoggard played very, very well. Hauser, the biggest thing was that Hauser got 1,000 points.
Yes, let's move right into Brown. So the Spartans were back at home on a Saturday, which always means that the Breslin is a little more full, just because people can make it to the games. So you're right, Joey Hauser reached his 1,000-point milestone. Got a standing ovation. I was there. I had to put my popcorn down so I could stand up and clap for him. It was Izzo and him had a little moment, and I think he deserved it after how he's played this season.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean Hauser. Earlier in the season, he was I think playing way better, more maybe over the average of what he usually does, and then he kind of sort of leveled out after a while. But I think that Hauser has 100% been one of Michigan State's biggest pieces in a lot of their success, right? And so. He deserved it. It's at one point. I mean, I remember watching him. He's been good, but at the beginning of the season, dude was just something else. He was a monster, looking for shots to knock down, and then all of a sudden, I think the schedule sort of wore off on him. So
that will be something to watch after they get this break to see if Joey kind of gets some of that back and if it truly was, the schedule wearing on him.
Exactly.
Hogard gave a nice quote after the game that I think kind of sums up what you and I touched on a little bit with the Penn State game. He said, "Me and Coach being on the same page and trusting one another, it just shows that we're having fun." I just feel like that needed to be something that happened so that they are on the same page, because if that relationship is good and Izzo is trusting Hogard more for the, right reasons, I think that that's a very positive point for us going into Big Ten play.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Yeah, absolutely.
Something of note from the Brown game that I just want to mention. So they had released something at the beginning of the game about if the Spartans got to 70 points, you could go to IHOP after the game and get free pancakes. I love free food. I like free pancakes. So the team had made it to 68 points. And I may have been screaming, like, "We want pancakes" at the top of my lungs. And Izzo told them, just dribble it out at the end of the game. Which I get it, sportsmanship, but also free pancakes were on the line. The Spartans ended with 68 points and never got to 70, so no one got free pancakes. I'm hoping that promotion stays around and that the Spartans can do it for me at least once when I'm there, but that was my only disappointment. I know.
Man.
I saw on Instagram someone had commented to Davis Smith, who was the one that just dribbled the ball out at the end of the game, I get dribbling it out, but not with free pancakes on the line. And Davis responded and was like, "Yeah, my bad, man. I didn't realize." So now they know.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my. Yeah. My bad. Yeah. I mean. Yeah.
I just feel like they played pretty well. The team played pretty well against Brown. A good showing at home, and I think a good kind of way to ease into this little bit of a break that that they're having right now.
Yeah, 100% for sure.
So my last thing about basketball is just a question we'll kind of talk. So where do the Spartans go from here? After winter break, like I said, and the Oakland and the Buffalo games, they go right into Big Ten play with Nebraska and then Michigan. Do you think this Spartan team can hang with Big Ten play?
Yeah, there's no reason why they can't. I think that the Big Ten's just deep,
Mm-hmm.
It's tough, right? Because, winning in a road game against Penn State, for as good or bad as Penn State is,
Mm-hmm.
however you want to label them, getting a road win in the Big Ten is critical, right? So I think that's good. That's a good sign that they were able to do that. I think that this is a tough team. I think that it's a team that can be tough, and typically the tougher teams win. And so I think that Michigan State has that potential in them. I definitely think that they have the potential to sweep Michigan if they wanted to. They play them twice, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I think that could happen. But I don't know. I think it's really early to say, but as far as Big Ten play goes, I think it'll just be another normal season. I think that the question isn't whether they make the tournament or not. I think that happens.
Yeah.
I really think it's just a matter of how high is the seeding, because teams lose all the time, right? Anybody can beat anybody. One of the reasons I like college basketball more than college basketball and hockey really than some of the aspects of college football is just because the parity is so closer. There's so much more parity is what I'm trying to say. Anybody can hang with anybody, and that's sort of kind of the profound, unique part of it, right?
Yeah.
So.
I'm excited for Big Ten play. I feel like if everyone is executing like we have seen them execute in different games throughout the season, then Big Ten play will be exciting for us to watch at home. And I'm just
hoping that there aren't as many heart attacks this year.
Yeah, right. 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 Well, it's not Michigan State basketball season without, a little bit of stress. But I'm looking forward to Big Ten play. I feel like they can definitely hang with a lot of the other teams. And I'm excited for it. Anything else that you want to say about MSU basketball?
No.
I think we just have some more watching to do, and I think over break, they will be getting the rest that they need to come out really strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully again, like I didn't sign up to watch a baseball game, like this should not be as stressful as it is, right? So anyway, for those of you who like the podcast, please rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can do that also on YouTube. Give us a like, subscribe. More YouTube content coming out pretty much every day, from recruit highlights to interviews with Tom Izzo that may or may not be happening soon. We have podcast clips, all that and more. Find us on YouTube, please. And come to our website, obviously, SpartansIllustrated.com. And we will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.